Hare Krishna, everyone. Good morning. At least it's morning for me. And although it's a cloudy day, it rained at night, weather cooled down. Very, very pleasant. And the rain is what the crops needed. We were really crying out for a little rain. Uh, Before continuing reading one of the verses of the Gita, I'd just like to recap a little our previous reading and discussion because we're reading select verses, and that means that there's a certain degree of continuity that's not as complete as it could be. One of the points that I made at our last reading was the importance of understanding the Supreme as a supreme transcendental being who is present in everyone's heart, who has unlimited potencies, and by his energies he's everywhere. But at the same time, he is a supreme independent person like we are. And that person has a form. He has many names, Krishna meaning the all-attractive one, being one of them. And self-realization means ultimately to understand the relationship between our persona and his personality. Because we are also persons. I don't think I need to convince anybody of that. So when we're talking now about transcendental knowledge, and we're still on the chapter of transcendental knowledge is the basis of bhakti yoga. Then we're talking about self-realization in yoga as being the development of bhakti, or the development of devotion towards the Supreme. A relationship is only as good as the amount of love, devotion that those two people share. And we have within us love for the Supreme, and the Supreme has love for us. The fact that I can talk, the fact that we have food to eat and oxygen to breathe, and that we even have the opportunity to exhibit our individuality is one of the unlimited ways in which God shows his love towards us. And that love is manifest in other ways and even more confidential ways when we have established our eternal connection or relationship with him, the Supreme Personality, who, yes, is both male and female. He's male as the Supreme Male, and he's female in terms of the expression of the sum total of all his potencies and energies as the Supreme Female. Verse 22 of the 4th chapter. Yadricha labasantushto dvanva tito vimatsara samasidha vasidhocha kritvapi na nibhadyate. And I hope for those of you who have Bhagavad Gitas, you're following along with me and sharing. But let me give the translation here. And now we're talking about the result of transcendental knowledge. He who is satisfied with gain, which comes of its own accord, who is free from duality and does not envy, who is steady in both success and failure, is never entangled, although performing actions. Really, really wonderful. Just here's a picture of my guru, Bhaktivedanta Swami, who is the commentator of Bhagavad Gita, and who of course brought kirtan to the world, not just the West, but everywhere. Here's the purport. A Krishna conscious person does not make much endeavor even to maintain his body. He is satisfied with gains which are obtained of their own accord. He neither begs nor borrows, but he labors honestly as far as in his power, and is satisfied with whatever is obtained by his own honest labor. He is therefore independent in his livelihood. He does not allow anyone's service to hamper his own service in Krishna consciousness. However, for the service of the Lord, he can participate in any kind of action without being disturbed by the duality of the material world. The duality of the material world is felt in terms of heat, cold, misery, and happiness. A Krishna conscious person is above all duality because he does not hesitate to act in any way for the satisfaction of Krishna. Therefore, he is steady both in success and in failure. These signs are visible where one is fully in transcendental knowledge. A yogi is someone who's in transcendental knowledge, fully in transcendental knowledge. So these symptoms should be visible, and these are some of the symptoms of a self-realized soul, satisfied with gain which comes of its own accord. In other words, not endeavoring too hard. We need to endeavor. We need to work. But there's such a thing as over-endeavor. What does over-endeavor mean? Over-endeavor means that when our work, when our maintenance of our body supersedes our efforts in self-realization. So first things first, the priority is self-realization. The priority is realizing and serving the Supreme. And when we have to work so much that, well, I don't have time to chant, I don't have time to read Bhagavad Gita, I don't have time to meditate on what is actually, or think about what the purpose of life is all about. I'm too busy doing my job. I'm too busy doing so many other things. So a person who's satisfied with gain which comes of its own accord. And that's called your karma. How do you know how much you should struggle? Well, as I mentioned, we're struggling for maintain ourselves. So how much? We're not sacrificing our duty to ourselves, our real spiritual duty. And that will vary from person to person, and that's their karma. For some person, they'll get millions. That's a few people. And for other people, they get less, but then I have to be satisfied with that. And that's called living according to what we need. We will always get what we need, but we will not always get what we want. Free from duality. Someone's free from duality means that he's not an illusion. I'm always very clear that I'm a spiritual entity, and this body is nothing more than the clothing for the soul. I don't identify. Duality means identifying with the world of duality, heat and cold, pleasure and pain, and that world is being picked up, and that world is being appreciated by this body. But the soul is inward looking. It doesn't relate to these dualities. Rather, the soul uses the world as much as it's possible in order to achieve my priority, in order to achieve my purpose. And he does not envy. Envy means someone there has got the millions. I don't get into a competition with them. I'm not envious that they have that. I recognize, all right, someone did something in the past that's made him a millionaire, that's made him a billionaire. I'm not going to sacrifice my soul. I'm not going to sacrifice the opportunity I have in this human form of life just to futilely try and be like he or she, because it will be futile. Steady in success and failure. Sometimes we try and we're successful, and sometimes we're not. Once again, it's up to our karma. So I shouldn't be excessively concerned about that. I should be concerned about being successful spiritually. And here in the purport, Prabhupada had said, the dualities of material world is felt in terms of heat and cold and misery and happiness. Heat and cold come. It was a warm day yesterday. It's a cool day today. Similarly, happiness comes and misery comes. So we've got this pandemic. It's bringing with it a lot of misery. We do our best. There's not anything more than we can do. And we see that some people's best means that they're actually putting their life online in order to help others. That's really a very glorious thing, but that's the work that they volunteered to do, their chosen field. So many people are cured, a certain percentage are not, at least those who end up being under the care of the health workers. But that's inevitable, because one thing that's really inevitable in this world is death. It's just a question of time. I used to be part of a European Council of Religious Leaders, and there was this very nice Sikh gentleman who's in the UK, in Birmingham. And once in a discussion, he made this very striking, very nice statement. He says that from the day that we are born, our death certificate has been signed. Usually when you're born, it's your birth certificate that's signed. But our death certificate has also been signed because we're going to die. That is inevitable. But he said the only thing that hasn't been filled out is the date. But when it happens, you'll know. So, yes. Very, very good. And one is steady in both success and failure and is never entangled. So we don't want to become entangled. We don't want to become a slave of the world, a slave of our mind. We don't want to be a slave of the internet. Don't want to be one of, at least, well, I don't have any children, but I wouldn't want to have one of those children who, at least at night, is 100 times, he's checking his mobile phone, or she's checking her mobile phone for messages. I mean, that's outrageous. That's really slavery. What to speak of how many thousands of times people are checking their mobile phones or computers during the day in their waking hours. It's slavery, and we should admit it. We have become slaves, and it's just like becoming an addict to drugs. These things are also drugs when not properly used. So, one never becomes entangled. Don't become entangled in the world. Remain aloof from the world, and we can remain aloof from the snares of the world by cultivating transcendental knowledge. And that is what the Bhagavad Gita teaches us, and I hope that today's lesson helped pick up a few grains of wisdom. Hare Krishna.